Hello and welcome back. It's time to tour my starter area here on the ShrubSMP Season 6. You can see here I'm standing in front of my starter home. And before we go through the front door, let's talk about the plans for today. So we're going to enter the house, we're going to give a quick tour, then I'm going to show you the surrounding area of the little farms that I built right here. We're going to talk about the rest of the island of which the starter area has been built. Then we're going to move on to spawn over there and check out the spawn city. And maybe, just maybe, we'll build something. I know, shocking. So, let's get started and head on inside. Alright, as we enter the front door, you can see my little entry area. We got some hooks for your jackets and we have a painting on the wall and we go upstairs. In the upstairs, which is basically a little bit of every essential that my starter home and every starter home I think should have. We're staring right at the full enchantment setup. You need to get that going in your starter home so that you can enchant up all your early game gear to get all the things that you need to be successful as you explore the world. The Season 6 pickaxe is my first wooden pickaxe. I think everybody does this, and if they don't, I think they really should, because it's kind of fun to make sure that you have a little piece of history in your world, whether you hide it as an Easter egg or you put it on prominent display like I did. This bed is my starter bed. It's no surprise that it's red because that's the original Minecraft bed color. But I did add a little trick that I found online here along the way, and that is to squish an armor stand into a stair to give the, with an iron helmet on it, to give the effect of like a 3D pillow as an extension of the white covering here. We're going to go ahead and say hi to Mr. Menderer. Here he is saying hi back to me. And the reason I call him Mr. Menderer is because every first villager that I need in my starter home, this season was no different. I need a mending trade. I need it as soon as possible and as early as possible, and to be associated with my starter home. There's a village just on the other side of that hill, not too far, where I found this guy, bought him over, tucked him in, gave him a little desk area to work with, and he became my source of mending. We can look around the rest of the second floor for some of the more mementos and a couple pets that we have. One of the things you have to do on the Shrub server is name all of your pets. It's like an unwritten rule, and lo and behold, we start with my bedside parrot Pedro, who does have a name, as do the other three. The other three are named Trixlia, Rufus, and Rainbow, and they're all just hanging out in the corner over here. Speaking of this corner, let's look at this block of snow. It's not really any block of snow, it's actually powdered snow, as you can tell by the animation where I'm starting to get freezing, and if I freeze too much it's gonna start hurting, frostbite. But it is light as a feather, and that's one of the achievements. Matter of fact, I was wearing those boots when I got the achievement of walking on powdered snow with leather boots. This boat has legs is another achievement, and this is the rod that I used to lure Sal. You might remember him over in the Dark Castle. Well, this is how I got him, and I put the lure here. Living flesh is a little bit of a unique thing, and as we take a look at it, it's actually part of a nether pack that we have on the server to expand the biomes and create unique treasures. It's really just this piece of rotten flesh with a fancy texture on it. You can feel it moving in your hands is what it says. As soon as I found it, I had to at least take one and make sure that I remember that I was there. We have a pretty basic kitchen setup here, including a refrigerator, a sink, a stove, Philo the cat's just sitting here off in the corner, and some shelf space with some items on top of the shelf, just for decoration. Little island here in the middle that separates the kitchen from the walking and entry space. We have our essentials such as the crafting bench, the stone cutter, and the furnaces to get us going for doing our crafting and our material making and our smelting and cooking early in the game. And we head downstairs to a very simple storage area. If it looks familiar, it's because in the Dark Castle, it's the same type of pattern. It has a double chest system with a unique barrel storage on top. There's no redstone in this one because it's just a starter area. You just need a place to store some of your common and buildable items for your early game days. And I have that down there in the basement. So, as we head out from the second floor, it's time to go check out the rest of the island really quickly. So really the main features out here, as we hop off the second floor, we come across the most sacred birch. Every build that I have always has to have the most sacred birch. I think it was season 3 or 4 maybe even last season, season 5, we had the Great Birch War, where there were supporters of birch and there were people who just hated birch, and I was on Team Birch. So from then on, I always at least put a little monument to the birch tree and include the sapling, which is the most sacred birch. The lore is that sapling is actually traveling across and through all of the different worlds that we played in. So a quick tour of the backyard, and we find where I got my first food source was this quick little chicken farm, where basically there's some hoppers underneath, and you can have the chickens lay eggs, and they collect the eggs in this barrel, and you can throw the eggs against that target and spawn more chickens. You can also feed them wheat seeds to replicate them faster, and then you call them every once in a while, get the raw chicken, and cook some chicken. So it's a very easy little contraption to start the season with, especially for a good source of food. And speaking of growing things, I have the sugarcane plants, which you would harvest by hand when you first start the season. Of course, now in Dark Castle 6.0, I have an automated sugar farm machine, but then I have all the crops. I always like to collect all the crops. I got the potatoes, I got the carrots, I even have the beetroot seeds, melons, and pumpkins, and we got them all. What else do we have over here? We got sniffers. I did find some sniffer eggs, so I was able to grow Nico the sniffer, and I don't have another name. My second sniffer, I haven't named them. I've got to name them, or else, you know, they come after you on this server if you don't have all your pets named. And another collection system for getting the pitcher podge and torchflower seeds. The bridge is a work in progress, and we'll come back to that in a future time. Maybe we'll actually do a build of that as we go. But then to get past the garden and the vegetables and everything that grows, the last little bit we want to check out are the villagers. So again, like Mr. Menderer, who we met earlier, some simple villagers that I have are a farmer, Freddy the farmer, who has all the trades. He's got potatoes, carrots, pumpkins, melons. This is the kind of farmer that you want, because you want to be able to, you don't always get the melon and pumpkin trade in one villager. So to be able to do that with this guy was an extra bonus. So I kept him, and we named him Freddy, and now I can just take all my collections from the chest out there and trade them for early game emeralds, and then by the time he's traded up, a very good source of food, cheaply, is golden carrots. Moving on to Edwin R. Fletcher. If anybody gets that joke, let me know down in the comments. Get a Fletcher for yourself for one of the early days, because sticks is the easiest way to get emeralds if you can manage to turn a villager into a Fletcher. So between these two guys, they're definitely just easy ways to get emeralds and to make trades early in the season. So as we go around the corner, we pass Arthur the dog in his little shelter that I built for him, and we see the last structure containing the last of my villagers, the tools and the armor, the smithing guys, and actually we even have the stone guy here too. So Mason is a great source of quartz early in the game, especially on this server, because we don't have access to the nether when we first started. It's an unlockable feature in this server that happens through community achievement, and it does take quite a while from the beginning of the server, so having a mason as a source of quartz is a good way to go. And then I got our last two guys, the toolsmith and the armorer. This is just the easiest way to get diamond tools early in the game if you can set these guys up. You got the axe and the pickaxe, and every piece of diamond armor with the armorer. And another added bonus is they both accept iron. And because we have the iron farm, which we're going to see in just a moment, there's another way that you can sell and get experience and emeralds from your local villagers. And last but not least, as we leave these guys just around the corner, I have a little collection. I always like to collect things on my starter base and around my starter area. We got all the kind of the different ores and the different variants of the ore that you can get. Still missing a few, because obviously the deep slate emerald is extremely rare, and I haven't found one of those yet, as is relatively rare a regular diamond ore. But we got pretty much everything else on display here. And right behind them are my collection of banners. These particular banners, these 6, are the ones that you can get from treasure that you find with actual specific patterns that are found in the game, as opposed to custom making your own. And once I find them, I make them and collect them around my starter area. So as we leave the second floor and take a look out, there are several farms that I have on the other side of the river here across the bridge that I built. There should be no surprise what's in this farm. That's a giant bee, there's some beehives, and you can see the bees flying around on the inside. This is a honey and honeycomb farm, of which I've been collecting for quite some time. It's really convenient being close to spawn, so it's kind of always producing, which really helps. That's why I've been able to collect so much, and I share it when I can. I take some over to the community storage and drop some off because I know it's something that not everybody sets up. And let's be fair, you know, always great to receive a compliment from one of your server mates, especially one of the server admins and one of the moderators on the server, says that they adore my bee, the captain. And, you know, let's face it, they're pretty darn cute. And now we move on to the iron farm. Again, no surprise, because as you can see, the iron golem's face on the front. It's just something I do. Obviously, I do the bee, I do this, I got the sheep over there. I love making statues of mobs. It's just something that I do. So, looking at the farm itself, we have an iron golem being burned up right now. Very simple design. It's 3 villagers and a zombie who bobs up and down in the middle. Is a golem gets generated on the top, falls down the water, gets into the lava, and it's collected here. All the items, the iron, plenty of iron so far. Again, being so close to spawn, it tends to go on and off pretty often. So I do a pretty good job collecting iron. And last but not least, we have this derpy fella. There's a sheep, which means that there's a wool farm on the inside. Very basic wool farm. There's several sheeps that have a little bit of redstone involving dispensing shears when the block beneath them changes. And why does the block change? It's because when a sheep eats some of the grass, that updates the block, triggers the redstone, and then it immediately shears them, gets collected through the collection system, and look at that. I got plenty of white wool ready to go. And since I'm here near spawn, and there's that village that I talked about earlier, I have myself a trader. He's not named. I must name him. I know this is a mortal sin here on this ShrubSMP, but he collects all the white wool and gives me emeralds. So again, very direct trade. It makes sense to have him right here locally. And on top of that, big bonus, red dye I get from the iron farm next door because those poppies become red dye. Plenty of emeralds for this guy, and again, just a very simple, basic farm. And that rounds up the starter farms here that I have with my starter island in the surrounding area, right outside of spawn. And speaking of spawn, that's where we're headed next, and I thought it would be a really cool idea. So instead of doing the player walk around, I thought it would be cool to do a commentated flyover. So that's what we're going to do now, and I hope you enjoy it. As we look out over spawn from the roof of the town hall, we see a combined inspiration of the cherry trees new to this version of Minecraft and buildings inspired by feudal Japan in the Edo period, including references to Amaterasu. Did you see the sign behind the roof sun feature? Easter eggs are often left in the form of signs with inside jokes written on them. After I make sure to stop by the Shrub post office, I need to check my mail to make sure if any of my server mates left me a present. There's plenty to see around spawn, starting with the main feature in the center square, a giant custom cherry tree. This cherry tree is a great example of how builders can use blocks to create a seemingly singular organic structure. Now, continuing an overhead sweep of the area, the contiguous color palettes and architecture mix are seen lined with natural cherry trees. And as we enter the harbor, a newly arriving sailing ship has appeared with a continued use of the cherry pinks and organic greens. Being a part of community includes sharing produced items such as the grab-and-go rocket shop I built. Following the path out of town, a player-built bridge with waterfall leads to the community storage area, where players can drop off excess and pick up items that they may need. We now move into the hills and the perimeter of this end of spawn, where we find what was originally an exposed dungeon spawner that has been touched up and built into the community zombie XP farm, perfect for those early game experience gathering and enchanting needs. Pathways extend out of and into town, all along the way with thoughtful detail, maintaining in an organic way the theme of the overall environment. Progressing down off the hillside and heading back into town, passing by a street end, we'll see the shoreline and beach area complete with fun decorations, benches, features, and even sandcastle. And as we take one last overhead view of the main multi-tier buildings, we'll sweep back up for a closer look to the building architecture. A stoic castle sits atop the hill, and as we move down toward its walking water entrance, we will see examples of the traditional art structure, leading to this serene feature. Small natural gardens like this are sprinkled throughout the spawn area. And, with one last pass over the roof, and down into street level, we will encounter a path. Like all good spawn towns, a community nether portal is a necessity, and this winding Japanese arch-covered walking path leads to just such a portal. As we make our way through these final details, we prepare to enter another dimension. What awaits us on the other side? Well, we'll have to go through to find out. And as we reach the end and the portal is revealed tucked away in a small alcove, we'll step in and are transported away to the nether, where we'll find ourselves next time.